Fantasy. The faculty or activity of imagining improbable things. An idea with no basis in reality. Or a genre of imaginative fiction involving magic and adventure. So, fantasy. The word goes in via the Latin to fantasia, meaning imagination. And it goes back to certain Greek words. Phantos, visible, phaino, to make visible, phaios, light. And ultimately to a Proto-Indo-European root, beh, B-E-H, to shine, to glow, to appear, to make visible. And let's just take this principal meaning, which I just read from the Oxford English Dictionary, fantasy, an idea with no basis in reality. It's a curious thing, you see, because let's imagine something that has a basis in reality. Let's look at the natural sciences. Let's consider physics, chemistry, biology. Surely this has a basis in reality, right? Surely, like, but the subject matter with which the natural sciences are concerned are phenomena, okay, because the natural sciences are predicated upon an empirical outlook, looking for data, looking for evidence. What is the manner of that data, that evidence? Phenomena, studying natural phenomena. This word phenomena again goes to the Greek and goes back to this same root, beh, meaning to shine, to appear, be made visible. Now, there's so much that's fascinating about this. So the point there just is that fantasy, which has come to mean an idea with no basis in reality, stems from the same root as phenomena, which certain outlooks on the world consider to be the basis of reality. I mean, that's what scientists mean when they say there's evidence. We have evidence for this theory. This theory has good evidence behind it. They mean to say that phenomena, natural appearances, things that are shining forth, can be explained in terms of this theory. So the phenomenal world of appearances, things as they shine forth, is of the same root as fantasy. All right. So, I mean, there's just a tremendous amount to say about this. The first is that there's a connection between sight and light, of course. Okay, to make something visible, for something to shine, and for something to shine forth and appear is to be made visible. So to see and to be illuminated are like connected notions, yeah? So we have light and sight sort of springing up together. Because really, like, without eyes, what would light be? Just consider that one, like, you know, like without eyes, what would light even mean? Would there be any phenomena without eyes? Would there be any appearances? Anything shining? So what would light even mean? So our eyes are responsive to light in some way, yeah. Kind of a simple thing to say, of course, but so it is. The other thing with this is that right, so we have this thing called the sun, don't we? And the sun rises every day, comes to its zenith, falls, and then goes away, and then uh things, the phenomenal world collapses, things stop being visible, and then this phenomenal world renews the next day. Now, this is the sort of thing that um, is so familiar to us that indeed, often enough, a film of familiarity, as S.T. Coleridge called it, may have grown over our eyes, and we may just say, well, like, yes, of course, the sun lights things up. Yeah. Of course, like, why are we even talking about this? I've known this for years. I've known this all my life. Like, of course, yeah. But this film of familiarity, the dross of habit, um, can actually like obscure and make it difficult actually to see directly, to see the phenomenon as it is. It's a remarkable thing that the sun um, illuminates all things. The sun makes all things shine forth on earth, all of them, everything you've ever seen. The grass of the fields, the great mountains, the hills, the trees, the birds, the bees, the great oceans, and every face you've ever seen, every person you've ever interacted with through your whole life, all of it. And it's different in the modern world because we have like these different sources of light, yeah. Okay, I grant that for a moment, yeah. But they are basically imitating our sun, like the immediate paradigm for light and for shining forth is the sun. Like before the advent of luminous bulbs, which was again like the majority of our human existence and all of our ancestral um, uh, encounter with the world. It was the sun's light, and because the sun is a star, right? So the sun is a star, and all those like distant stars, like they're suns in that way, yeah. It's just that the sun, our sun, is the most brilliant, luminous, celestial body, of course. And it is the cause of all phenomena in that way. Well, it's a cause, right? Because the other cause is our eye, you see, which is actually kind of I don't know, it's something I've contemplated anyway, but if you like look at the actual eye, what do you say, like the iris and the pupil? It's a circle with a dot in it. Oh yeah, like that's actually like a really interesting one. So like yeah, the alchemical symbol, the alchemical or the astrological signification for the sun is basically literally your eye. So just look at your eye, doing this with the camera. A dot in the center of a circle is the astrological glyph for Sol, um, for the sun. And so that's kind of an interesting thing in itself that the light of the sun is received by something which is mm, well, it's at least of a like nature in the sense that it's capable of receiving and being sensitive to light. Um, there are certain alchemical and astrological, it's like a hermetic saying that like is known by like. So there's something star-like within us that um uh allows our star to shine forth. You see what I mean? What I'm trying to get at with this is that Gerhard Dorn, the alchemist, once said that the imagination, or you could say the fantasy, the fantasia, fantasy is the star within man, is what Gerhard Dorn said. So, like our fantasy, our shining forth, is like our inner sun, like our inner star. Um, yeah, I don't want to go too. I want to try and keep these little videos focused on the word, the etymology, and feeling into the meaning and the soul of the word. But like, there's the whole thing about mind consciousness, what it means to be human, and the sun, like the sun's light doesn't exist as a phenomenon without the eye. Now you can say like there's certain frequencies of light, you can like reduce it to certain, I don't know how these kind of things are measured. I suppose they would be frequencies of light. But I mean the quality of light for something to shine forth, for a phenomenon to appear, to shine forth, to appear. There needs to be an eye, you see. And so I think at risk of sort of belaboring this point, the sun isn't a light. It isn't luminous without an eye to see it in that sense. So there's an interesting way in which phenomenon and fantasy both relate to the same thing. So, like there's a certain view which would say, or as it says in the Oxford English Dictionary, that fantasy is an idea that's not real. And you might counter that with a certain empiricist view of science, which would say uh, that natural phenomena are real. They are real, and your fantasies about them, they're not real. Going with the Oxford English Dictionary here. But like it's a kind of tricky position to hold because what makes you like why privilege a certain kind of shining forth over another kind of shining forth? Let me suggest to you a couple of things. Two of the great fantasy in this second sense from the Oxford English Dictionary writers, two great English fantasy writers of the 20th century are J.R.R. Tolkien and J.K. Rowling. Okay, now consider this one. Tolkien's Hobbit comes when he pens the line, "In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit." Yeah, and so that's like a fantastic. It's a fantastic thought, which might be an idea that has no basis in reality. But consider for a moment, there's some kind of shining forth there. What kind of shining forth is it? Consider too that J.K. Rowling, in her train journey from, or in between London and Edinburgh, in 1990, the thought of Harry Potter sort of shone forth. These fantastic moments in the imagination shine forth, appear to them. What kind of appearance is this? Well, it's hard to say because did it mean uh did um did Tolkien literally see in his study with like these eyes here, these physical eyes, a hobbit in a hole in the ground? Is that what he saw? Well, clearly he did see that in a sense. Like it was visible in a sense because it's a phenomenon. Uh, you know, it's just a fact. This is why the phenomenological tradition of philosophy interests me so greatly because, it is just a fact of Tolkien's experience that in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Same as J.K. Rowling rushing through this train, traversing the Great Britain. Again, in the midst of that, and there were all of these vistas to see out the window, I'm sure, as she was sort of rushing past Lindisfarne or something like that. There were all of these shinings forth, surely, these phenomenal shinings forth. And amidst those shining forths, there was another shining forth, Harry Potter. Now, you know, it's a kind of bias, isn't it, to say that the shining forth out the window of the train is a real shining forth. That's the real shining forth. And this Harry Potter thing, that's not real. That's not a real shining forth. Just dismiss that one. It's illusory. It's taking you away from reality in some way. But again, nevertheless, for Rowling and Tolkien, these are genuine phenomena shining forth. They could see the Hobbit and Harry Potter in the eye of their mind, put it this way, in their imagination. What is imagination? That's a whole mysterious thing, which I suppose we're kind of feeling into here. Because clearly, well, because there's this whole thing about like where do ideas come from, and who knows really with that, and it's related to the question of where does anything come from, the great metaphysical question, where does anything, any of the natural phenomena, where do they come from? But you know, the point I'm making is that they're both datums, facts of consciousness. Just like that is like that can't be disputed. If you take consciousness, Tolkien's or Rowling's or your own consciousness as and your own conscious experience, start there. Start in your own conscious experience. There are plenty of shinings forth. Now, there's the shinings forth, which our sun shines forth, as I was saying, and our eyes and all the phenomena visible and appearing to the eyes are all shining forth. Sure. But there's other kinds of shining forth alongside that. Ideas, visions, perceptions, ideals, and great fantasies, great visions, great perceptions of the mind. And indeed, one must stress that in many ways it is these visions, these fantasies, these shinings forth that are really the font and the wellspring of all culture. You know, the human imagination, what shines forth from the sun within is the primordial moment of all culture. I mean, I think this is something in scripture too, which mentions that I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it now. Basically, like something like without a vision, we're lost. Or like, oh yeah, I think it's like without a vision, like the people perish. So like vision is what I'm stressing here. And I'm using the word vision in like analogously, like in terms of analogy, because I'm not restricting the word purely to your physical eye and the physical sun. But it's kind of there are ambiguities around like what constitutes physical. But like, you know, those are types of phenomena. I see a tree, I see birds, I see this and that. And it shines forth in different hues, in different ways through the visual field. Okay, this is clearly a central aspect of our experience as human beings. Um, and there are other shinings forth. Like clearly there are great visions, limitless visions, which poets, mystics, visionaries are capable of beholding. And I would submit all human beings actually are capable of beholding great visions in what? The eye of the mind, the inner eye, the interior eye, or the eye of imagination. Now, it's a great sort of tragedy of our age that the Oxford English Dictionary can document a meaning of the word fantasy, which says that it's an idea which has no basis in reality. Because, like, if we want to be realists, you know, if we want to be realists about life, we should denigrate fantasy on that definition and say, look, you know, it's just taking you away from reality, my friend. Like, stick to the facts, stick to what's real, etc. Um, but I think there's something about that that's actually sort of demonic in a way. Because the stifling of imagination and the stifling of imagination is the stifling of the deep power within the human soul. Blake, of course, said that all that is now proved was once merely imagined, and that his imagination precedes proof. It's out ahead of proof. First, we need the vision to prove scientific theories. Einstein said things to this effect, and it just, I mean, I just invite you to consult your own experience about these things, the way in which things shine forth in their meaning and their possibility beyond what you can immediately see in an empirical, immediate, local, sensory sort of sense, right? And this is like I would say like the phenomenal appearings sort of like here and like the great phenomenal appearings here. Like they're still all appearings. Like I think there's space to say that many different things shine forth in this life. And it's just like not to necessarily formulate a dogma around how some classes of shining forth are the real classes and the others should be dismissed. This is like Vernon Dursley saying to Harry Potter that there is no such thing as magic. It's that kind of attitude which emphasizes the real and suppresses imagination. In conclusion, well, let me think. Have I said? Yeah, I think that's good. Like, I mean, there's just so much to say about sight and light and the analogy of the sun. I mean, this is why many cultures worshipped the sun because, like, it's really like when you just think about it, like you just bring your awareness to the actual phenomenon of the sun. There's a lot to be thankful. There's a lot to be thankful for and grateful for to the sun, because as I've just said, all things are seen by the sun's light, and of course, all plants photosynthesize according to that light. They're fed by it directly, and but like even just for human experience, there's a lot to be thankful for. Um, um, with respect to that. Um, so yeah, I don't know, like the Greek god Apollo. You can see why people worship the sun, is my point. Um, I'm so okay, so shining, visible sun, light, the eyes, the alchemical sign of the sun as being literally there in your eye. Um, I was going to conclude with a reading from The Tempest on this notion of fantasy, and those beautiful lines from Prospero. Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and melted into air, into thin air, and like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our life, and our little life, is rounded with a sleep. The we are such stuff as dreams are made on is a remarkable insight about the role of imagination um that dreams are made on. Their dreams are made on the fabric of fantasy. The role of imagination in human life and the role of fantasy in human life. And yeah, for my part, I hope to have uh, offered and shared here a broader understanding, a broader vision of the word fantasy than is implied by the Oxford English Dictionary, wherein it is said that fantasy refers to an idea which has no basis in reality. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you have any comments, please share them down below. And if you'd like to stay around for some more content, please subscribe. So thanks for listening.